In this tutorial, I'll be explaining this concept of word glue from your copies of CEA book, which basically is this idea of creating a sense of coherence, or another word, a sense of connectedness in your body paragraphs. To gain some context, let's think about how the skills you practice in your showing writing essay apply to your body paragraphs that you're about to write for the Odyssey. Well, in your showing writing essay, you practiced showing concrete, singular examples that displayed a particular tone about a particular experience. Well, how this transfers to your body paragraphs for the essay is now what you're going to do is blend a specific textual example from the Odyssey that this time not displays tone, but that shows a particular associative idea. Also, in your showing writing essay, you practiced the skill of elaboration. Before you moved on to a new image, you tried to show it in greater detail, extend my understanding of it. Well, in the Odyssey essay, you're now going to elaborate on evidence. So rather than move on to your new example, you need to explain it. You need to show it in greater detail by explaining it with association words. And you also practice this skill of using precise diction, not the almost right word, but the exact word. And that applies very well to your paragraphs for the Odyssey, because your goal now is to use precise association words, ideas that you associate with the examples that you're providing in your body paragraphs. It's not the almost right association, it's the exact association. So the purpose of the lecture is just to explain how you go about creating a sense of coherence in your body paragraph. Let me give you a few key concepts first. We'll start by defining coherence, or the term that your CEA book uses for it, word glue. And that's just you trying to use language in your body paragraph consistently that binds each sentence together. It's the way that you tie, the way that you connect, the way you Velcro, the way you glue a collection of sentences and a collection of ideas together in a body paragraph. Just as you had a framework for your showing paragraph, there's a framework to follow for a body paragraph. And there are 3 steps to this framework, where firstly, you blend a textual example well, and you use one of those 3 available methods, whether it be using a colon, identifying the speaker, or embedding the example as a natural part of the sentence. Then, after you blend the example, now you need to stop down and now you need to elaborate on the evidence. I've got to see you explain the example with the exact association words that are occurring in the example, whether it be a quality that a character displays, a value they exhibit, or a condition that emerges in the example. Then the next and final step is, now I need you to transition to the next example. Use some language telling the reader that I'm moving on to a new example, and here's the relationship between this new example and the example that I just discussed. So how do you, as a writer, achieve a sense of coherence or a sense of connectedness in your body paragraphs, or what the CA calls, how do you execute this word glue? Well, you do it in 2 ways. One of the first ways that you do it is through elaboration, and that is that in your sentences, you have to use diction, you have to use association words that are synonymous with those association words in your main sentences, your topic sentence and your thesis statement. In other words, when you explain your evidence, you've got to use associative language that ties back to your topic sentence or your thesis statement. So this really requires you to be very deliberate as you explain a piece of evidence, as you analyze it, being very deliberate about your use of associative language in that explanation. Another way that you achieve this coherence or word glue is through using transitions. You use words and phrases in your paragraph constantly that signal the relationships between your examples and between your ideas. And in this way, you're doing a very consistent and deliberate job of showing the reader the direction of your thinking. Here's a pretty comprehensive list of transition words from CEA book. You can use time words to signal that you're moving on to your new example or your next ideas. You can use place words. You can use these kinds of words, first, second, third. If you're comparing, you can use this kind of language. if you're contrasting this kind of language. And all this language, again, is very important in showing the direction of your thinking to me as the reader. Some other possible transitions. You can use some language that helps emphasize or clarify a point that you have. If you're just simply adding another example, this is some really good language to use. Or if you're trying to show a causal relationship, this is really excellent language to use. So in the end, what is this skill of word glue? Well, it is your ability in these two parts of your body paragraph, in your elaboration, in your use of transitions, you achieving this sense of coherence or connectedness. So this is primarily where coherence happens, in these moments in the paragraph. That's how you glue your sentences together, according to your CEA book. So let's take a quick look at a model here. Here's a thesis statement for the Odyssey. In the Odyssey, Eumaeus models how to be an ideal community member. So a good thesis statement, because we see our subject, we see our topic, and then we also see an associative idea, ideal community member. Here's our first topic sentence. Eumaeus display acts of selflessness and humility toward not only members of his community, but also to strangers. Topic sentence 2, Eumaeus also exhibits a sense of morality and justice. And so this language in yellow here, this is the language that we're going to try to glue back to in these body paragraphs. And then you'll notice also that this language connects back to ideal community members. So obviously this writer is wanting to define that idea from the thesis statement, ideal community member. So here's a body paragraph that develops topic sentence 2. So again, we're trying to be sure that we constantly glue back to these two ideas. And we're going to glue back to these ideas in the way that we analyze, explain, or elaborate upon our evidence, and in the way that we transition. After Odysseus thanks Eumaeus for his hospitality, the swineherder says with integrity, would be wrong, stranger, for me to disrespect a guest, for all guests and beggars come from Zeus. So now here's our elaboration on the example. Using the word wrong, Eumaeus exposes his sense of virtue. He even evokes Zeus's name to reference a higher law and duty that guides his actions. So you'll see that all that yellow language really does a good job of connecting back to morality, connecting back to justice. Likewise, and there we see a transition, Eumaeus points to a higher code of morality as he prepares a meal for Odysseus, disguised as a beggar. And then our final sentence of elaboration, Eumaeus, abiding by an established community principle, proceeds dutifully to make an offering to the gods, a gesture that stresses his honor and righteousness. So all that yellow language, this orange language, which is the transition, that's how the writer achieves a sense of connectedness between his sentences. So let me synthesize some of these key concepts that we have discussed. Firstly, executing the framework for analysis, this framework where you blend an example, where you elaborate on an example, and then you transition, and we're repeating this framework throughout our body paragraph. Keep in mind, this really just helps you stay on topic. It really helps you avoid plot summary, so that's why it's very important to stick to it consistently. Secondly, use a thesaurus to help vary your diction and elaboration. Remember, not only is it important to vary your syntax, the way your sentences are arranged, but also to just vary the words that you use from sentence to sentence. Finally, every sentence should have, in a body paragraph, association words. You really need to keep that in mind. That includes sentences in which you blend evidence. We must constantly use words, association words, in every single sentence that connects back to our topic sentence. And if you're not using association words, chances are you're simply summarizing in your paragraph. So let's wrap up here by thinking about a simile. Writing a body paragraph in a literary analysis is like making a flip book because. So let me give you the completion to this sentence starter. If you think about making a flip book, when you're drawing on a page, you have to keep in mind not only what you drew on the previous page, but you have to keep in mind what you're going to draw on the next page. And that essentially is what coherence is. The page that you're working on has to connect in some way to the page before it and to the page after it. It's no different than writing an essay in a body paragraph, that the sentence that you're presently writing, the sentence that you're presently constructing, it has to connect to the sentences before it and the sentences after it. And you achieve that sense of connectedness by focusing on the association words that you use in your sentences of elaboration. They should connect to your main sentence, your topic sentence, and by using transitional words and phrases that signal the direction of your thinking, that show the reader the connection, the relationships between your examples and ideas. So this is a really effective simile. A flip book is much like writing a body paragraph. Go ahead and write your own explanation here, your own completion to this sentence starter, and this week you'll work on achieving a sense of connectedness in your body paragraphs for the Odyssey.